my distinct pleasure to be joined this morning by Mark Meckler. He is the president of the Convention of States Foundation and Conventions of States Action. And we had some folks on a local level a few months back talking about the Convention of States, why it was important that people in Raleigh knew about it. And at that time, I believe we were taking a look at a resolution in Raleigh from our state legislature. And part of the Convention of States is that a certain number of states has to approve a resolution. I might put that in there. That was a Freudian slip, as they say. But the resolution has to be passed by a number of states before this can take place. This is all part of the United States Constitution. But here to explain it a little bit more and kind of bring us up to speed so I can remember, Mark Meckler. Mr. Meckler, a real pleasure to have you on the air with us. Thank you for taking time to be on the program with us, sir.
Good morning, Al. It's an honor to be with you this morning.
Let's talk a little bit, first of all, about Convention of States. What is that? And just kind of give us a good working definition that we can go with this morning and kind of refresh my memory from the last conversation we had.
Sure. Article 5 of the United States Constitution contains the provisions that allow us to amend the Constitution if we think it's necessary. The second clause of Article 5 says if the states want to, when two-thirds of them make application for a convention, they can get together in a convention and discuss amendments that would restrain federal tyranny. And so that's the process. The way it works is it takes two-thirds of the states to call a convention. So today that's 34 states required. And once you get to convention, the states will debate potential amendments, and then if they can get the majority of states to agree to make suggestions, and important to remember, a convention can only make suggestions, then suggestions come out of convention and it goes out to the states for ratification, and then it's even a higher bar. It takes 38 states to ratify anything before it becomes part of the United States Constitution.
So you're actually talking about, with the Convention of States, is not the traditional way of going in and changing the Constitution. You're talking about a different way of changing what is actually in the Constitution, but making changes and amendments to the U.S. Constitution. That's big, right?
It's real big, and you're correct. The way that it's always been done is under the first clause of Article 5. There are 27 amendments, of course, and all of those have been either proposed by Congress. It's two-thirds of both houses of Congress proposed, and then ratified by the same method. The reason that we're going the state route at this point is the federal government's out of control, and they'll never propose amendments that limit their own power or return power to the states, and that's really what we're trying to do.
Okay, so how are you doing on your state count right now for the convention?
It's going really well. We're almost at the halfway mark, something people told us was impossible. So 15 out of 34 states have actually passed the resolution completely. Another 8 states, including North Carolina, have passed it in one house or another. It has to go through both houses. No governor's signature necessary. That's important in your state right now. And then 49 out of the 50 states have actually filed the resolution and are debating the resolution. So we're moving forward rapidly.
When would you like to see the resolution come about, or the number of resolutions from the states come about? When do you think you may be able to get 34? And also, is there a time limit on this? If the state of North Carolina, if we get both houses of the legislature to pass this, does it have to be a certain time limit before this could go into the official count or number for the 34 states count needed?
Yeah, so there is no time limit. In other words, the states can take as long as they want or pass as quickly as they want. And once they pass that resolution, it's on record, unless they decide to rescind that resolution in the same way.
So it is on record. I know that certain amendments to the Constitution in the first part of Article 5, they do have time limits on them. There's a certain amount of time that needs to be passed in a number of years. But in this particular case, and once it's on record and it's not rescinded, you can take as long as you need to get the 34 states in there to have the convention. But I'm sure you want it as soon as possible.
I'd love it tomorrow, to be honest with you, but it takes a long time. The founders intended this to be a slow and arduous process because they wanted to make sure that we had a very solid supermajority of the states that wanted to have this discussion, and then for ratification, an even higher supermajority. They didn't want us amending the Constitution easily.
Let's talk a little bit about how it's going to happen here in North Carolina. If someone who's listening this morning says, well, okay, I'm familiar with this, I've heard about this, I'm interested in the Convention of States, what has to happen in our Senate now? Because we know that the House has already passed, or what they call the House, has already passed their portion. So what has to happen in the Senate, and how can people help enact that in the North Carolina Senate for the Convention of States?
Yeah, so it has passed the House. It's now in the Senate. We passed in the Senate in years past. Back in 2017, we passed in the Senate. They asked that we do it in the House this year first. So what we need to do is really just call the senators and nicely request that they move this forward. I think in your area, it's probably Senator Sawyer. And so folks need to call Senator Sawyer and ask her to help this move forward. The leadership needs to be on board. That's Senator Berger and Senator Rabin. They just have to make the decision and then actually have the vote. And right now we feel a little bit stalled out in the Senate. I'm struggling to understand this a bit because obviously Washington, D.C. is out of control. Your senators, your U.S. senators are voting for things that seem a little bit crazy to most of us, $1 trillion package, et cetera. And so this is a chance for North Carolina to say to the federal government, nope, it's time to get smaller, give the power back to North Carolinians. So we need to ask our senators to do that.
Who will represent? Let's go according to what your best case scenario would be, and let's say in the next few weeks everybody comes together and we have a convention of states. Who would represent North Carolina in this convention? Where would it be held? How are the rules set up for this? Tell me a little bit about this, because there's a lot here I don't understand. I know we've only got a couple minutes, but give me just a general idea of what this would look like and how this would happen.
Sure, I'll give you the brief primer on it. So one of the things I love about this so much is it really is federalist, and by that I mean the states are in charge. So each state will choose their own delegates, and when I say the state will choose, that would be your state legislature. So your House, your Senate would decide how to choose their delegates, how many delegates to send. They could literally send one delegate or 100 delegates. Each state gets one vote no matter what. So it's just up to the state how they choose those. In my experience going around the country, most states will choose sitting or former state legislators, judges, governors, people that they actually really trust a lot,
right?
Statesmen and stateswomen. So you'll choose that. They'll go to convention. The convention decides on their own rules. We've had over 40 interstate conventions in American history. They generally all use virtually the same rules because legislators are used to a certain set of rules. So those are Mason's rules. They get into convention, they'll break into committees just like a legislature does. They'll propose amendments, they'll vote on those, and if they can get the majority of states to agree on any amendment or set of amendments, then they'll pass those out to states for ratification.
This is going to take a little work. This is going to take a little time. But it sounds like already things are starting to happen with you said 15 states now have fully agreed that a convention of states would be a good thing. They have made the resolution, and now we're working on the other states. So I want to say in our area, too, I don't know how Dean Proctor would vote on that, but I know that he is our state senator from the 42nd District, so that would be one of the ones I think that people would contact. What's the big advantage of this, sir? What is the big advantage of having the Convention of States as opposed to going through the other ways? I know at the beginning of our conversation you said folks are not going to vote for limiting government. They're not going to vote for term limits, things like this. What's the biggest advantage you see, again, kind of magic wand question, coming out of a Convention of States?
Yeah, well, so the three things that we're going to talk about in convention, according to the resolution, are imposing term limits on federal officials. So that's Congress, staffers, bureaucrats, and the judges.
Okay, term limits.
Imposing that's imposing fiscal restraints, like a balanced budget amendment. And it's saying literally there are things the federal government won't be allowed to do, so limiting their power, saying they can't have a Department of Education, they can't have a Department of Energy or EPA. These things should be done in North Carolina. So the big advantage is this, that those in Congress are never going to vote to limit their own terms. They're never going to vote to limit their own spending. They're never going to vote to limit their own power, yet the vast majority, over 80% of Americans, are in favor of those things. So this is a way that you and I and our states can route around Congress, around the president, around the courts, and impose restrictions on Washington, D.C. ourselves. That's why we've got millions of supporters all over the country. It's why every major conservative thinker and talker in America, nationally known talker, Limbaugh, Levin, Hannity, Beck, Shapiro, all of them have endorsed this. And frankly, it's why the radical left is against this in America. And they all signed a press release against it. That's Planned Parenthood, La Raza, Code Pink, MoveOn.org. They're all against it. So this is a way that conservatives can get their hands around the federal government and put it back in the constitutional box.
Very good. How do we find out more information if we want to do that on a local level or national level, sir?
Yeah, go to conventionofstates.com, and then folks can sign the petition there. They can also get involved, and this is important, by clicking on the resources tab and volunteering. Country's at stake. We need your listeners to help us save it.
Well, I want to thank you very much for your time this morning. I know you're a really busy guy, so thank you for letting us know kind of from the top, and a view from the top of why you feel people need to be involved with this, especially on the state level.
I'm here live in Philadelphia at the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. When you hear the phrase lives, fortunes, and sacred honor, these are the folks we should think of, those who anonymously gave their lives. Well, today you have a chance to volunteer. You need to volunteer for conventionofstates.com, the movement that's going to save the country. These folks are willing to step up and give everything. We need you to give just a little bit. Go to conventionofstates.com and volunteer today.